Chapter 1. The name that does not belong to a body. You stand in front of the cold, thick glass where an anonymous body lies motionless on a stainless steel table in the autopsy room. There is no train whistle, no cold wind from that hellish station, just the ticking of the clock and the deafening silence. The coroner looks at you through his round, foggy glasses. Are you sure it's him, Inspector? You don't answer right away. You keep staring at the face, the unfamiliar face that all the papers say is Pietr the Latvian. But you, Megre, don't trust the papers. You trust your instincts, and your instincts are screaming. You crouch down, examining every detail, the calluses on your palms, a mole near your left ear, the faint scar on your chest that looked like it had been left by a botched operation. None of it matched the description from the classified files you'd been studying for 6 months. And then, most importantly, the teeth. You've read that Pietr had gold in the back corners of his teeth from the Warsaw fighting of 1925. But the teeth here even white, slightly worn at the edges from smoking cheap cigarettes, a fake, a staged corpse. You take a step back. It feels like someone is standing behind you, watching, waiting for your reaction. You turn around. The room is still empty. But you know, something has begun. You leave the morgue with a heavy head. It's raining lightly in Paris. Drops of water fall steadily from your felt hat, trickle down your collar, and it's cold. You take out a cigarette, your hand shaking a little as you light it, not because of the cold, but because for the first time in years, you're not sure if you're hunting or being hunted. You remember the midnight call from the chief himself. Pietr is dead. Megre, it's time for you to rest. But what did he know? Was he dead? Or did someone want him to believe that? You look at your watch. 02:17 a.m. The yellow streetlights are already flickering. You decide not to go back to headquarters. You walk, slowly, through the wet streets that lead to Montparnasse. There is a small hotel at the end of the street, the one you saw Pietr enter a week ago. If he is dead, then who is he? You stand in front of the hotel door. A figure passes behind the second-floor curtains. You recognize the gait, the slight limp on the right leg, just like the real Pietr. You tighten your grip on the gun in your pocket. The truth has changed, and now you can trust no one, not even yourself. Chapter 2. Second floor. No name on the doorbell. You stand still under the porch, your hands in your coat pockets. The gun as cold as the thoughts in your head. The second floor curtains are closed, the lights are off, but you know someone is there, and they know you're watching. The Montparnasse Hotel is old, musty, and unremarkable. But in your guidebook, it has been circled in red for the past 3 days. A man using the pseudonym Henri Fedorov has taken room 23, second floor, at the end of the corridor. The man walks with a limp. The man knows how to blend into a crowd like a mirage. You knock on the front desk door. The night guard nods, his eyes red from sleep. Room 23, you said quietly, your voice cool enough to not require a card. The guard nodded and silently handed over the spare key. The wooden stairs creak as you climb each step. The hallway is long and dark. The yellow lights flickering. You stop in front of room 23. your ear pressed lightly against the wooden door. Silent. No sound, no movement. You put the key in the lock, turn it, and immediately lean to the side. Gun drawn. No gunshots. No screams. Just the lingering smell of cigarette smoke. The door opened. The room was empty. The bed was untouched. On the table was a cup of cold coffee and a pack of Russian cigarettes. Rare, special. A clear sign the person in this room knew you were coming. And he had just left, or was watching you from somewhere. You walk over to the window. The curtains are drawn. There is something on the table that makes you freeze. A telegram? Sent from Riga, Latvia. Peter doesn't exist. He's a mask. Find Radoslav. Third window on the right. Trust no one. Third window. You turn to look at the row of houses across the street, an old apartment with a torn billboard. You count. 1, 2, 3. Sure enough, it's on the third floor. The window ajar. The curtains swaying slightly despite the lack of wind. You no longer doubt. Pietr was never a person. He was a construct, a shell, used alternately by many people. And death on the ship was only the end of a name, not a person. You return to headquarters with your mind racing. In your notebook, you write a name in capital letters, Radoslav, the identity controller, the weaver of false identities, the one you've never seen. But he's seen you all along. Chapter 3. Baltic Mask. You sit alone in your office. The desk lamp is dim. Your glass of cognac unfinished. On the desk are a telegram from Riga, a sprawling map of Europe, and a red-labeled Interpol file, Baltic Mask, blocked. At first, you are told to let it go, a blemish on the war record. But when you insist on the name Radoslav, no one dares to laugh anymore. An older official, with cracked glasses, just says quietly, "If that guy comes back, this will no longer be a common murder." Radoslav, a former Soviet neurosurgeon, disappeared during a troop withdrawal in East Germany. Then, bodies with false identities began to be found. Doctors, lawyers, journalists, all with perfect papers, but none of them were real. Peter was one of those identities, a face that could be reborn into another. And the body on the ship was just a pawn, someone playing Pietr to distract attention. You trace the whereabouts of Henri Fedorov, the man from the Montparnasse Hotel. His papers were renewed 2 weeks ago in Rotterdam. From there, he traveled to Brussels, stayed in Warsaw, and then to Paris. No permanent address, no social security number. But he attended 2 meetings of a charitable foundation called Novus Sanctum, long under surveillance for its links to money laundering, identity theft, and financing of political disappearances. You circle 3 words in red on the bulletin board: Novus Sanctum, Radoslav, Pietr. They are no longer discrete names. They are portals to a system of identity rebirth, where death is just the opening act to a new role. You turn to the file Baltic Mask. Inside was a blurry image of a man, only from behind, standing in the middle of a snow-covered train platform. The handwritten text read, "This guy shows up every time there's a high-profile murder, but he's never caught. He knows the language of disappearance." Below is a copy of an encrypted recording. You turn on the recorder. A crackling sound comes on. A voice, cold and even. "To kill a man, let him be born in another." You understand the game has not yet begun. And you Maigret are being dragged into a game where all the pawns are masked, and you are the only one with nothing to hide. Chapter 4. Making a Stamp in Rotterdam. You arrive in Rotterdam on a damp, unwelcoming morning. The houses are gray, the streets are crisscrossed by canals, and the rusty cold creeps up your collar. In your hand is a handwritten address on a torn piece of paper. H. Volkov. Engraving. Basement 17. Kruisstraat. The engraving shop is in a narrow alley with no sign. Just a rusty metal door, and the only indication is the smell of old ink and machine oil. You knock 3 times, no answer. Knock again. The door opens a crack, and a pair of dull geese eyes peer out. Paris police. You said shortly, pushing your badge up to the light. The old man, small and bald, slid back like a shadow. I did nothing wrong. Inspector. He muttered, just stamps, notary seals, some paperwork, and fake papers for a man named Fedorov. He paused, his eyes twitching. No acknowledgement, no denial, just silence. You go down into the cellar, a room like a warehouse, dimly lit, full of rubber stamps, printing papers, old offset presses. On the walls are maps of Europe, crisscrossed with pieces of paper names, numbers, arrival and departure dates. You pull a file out of your desk drawer, marked FF91, issued 2 weeks ago. The photo on it is of Henri Fedorov, but through digital editing, you see that it was once of many other people: a Lithuanian businessman, a French engineer, a Serbian servant. Identity is a disguise. And someone is sponsoring this show. How many passports did you print for that person? Volkov looked at you, as if considering whether you were worth betraying the ghost behind you. Then he sighed. I didn't ask for their names, just the money and the specs. But the guy never came in person. Always sent a guy named Schwartz, with a German accent. You write down the name, Schwartz. A new link? Before leaving, you look back at the file, a receipt for a transfer to an anonymous account in Luxembourg. From there, the money was withdrawn in cash in Paris. Everything begins and ends in Paris. You leave the shop as dusk falls. The cold rain washes away your tracks, but one thing remains: the feeling that you are being watched. Chapter 5. A witness disappears. You return to Paris in the rain at night. The city greets you with the sound of car horns and yellow lights shining through the windshield. You no longer believe in coincidences, especially when the name Schwartz emerges from the darkness. In the office on the Quai des Orfèvres, you flip through the files. Schwartz. No photo. No official papers. But he's been mentioned in Interpol reports on forged documents in European ports. He's a ghost. He moves through cities like a cigarette, leaving behind a trail of smoke and a few corpses if anyone dares to get in his way. You have an appointment with Reinhardt, a German informant living in Montmartre who has heard the name Schwartz in the world of forged documents. The appointment is for 10 a.m. at an old cafe called Le Chat Bourggne. But when you arrive, the door is ajar. The doorbell doesn't ring. You walk in. A cold cup of coffee is still on the table. A wide-brimmed hat hangs on a hanger, and Reinhardt wasn't there. You walk upstairs. The smell of metal mingles with the smell of mold. The door to room number 3 is ajar. You push it open. Reinhardt lay on the floor, eyes wide open, hands clutching a crumpled piece of paper. There was no blood, no wound, but his wrists had been bound with a rope simple and silent, like a message. You open the paper, scribbled in French. Too late, Inspector. You look around. The room is ransacked, but the wallet is intact. He wasn't killed for the money, but for the promise he made to tell. You return to your office, looking at your bulletin board, which is now filled with photos, diagrams, and red dots connected by thread. Pietr is still on the run. Fedorov is the first mask. Schwartz is the moderator. Reinhardt, now a corpse. Everything seems to revolve around one unknown name, the payer. That night, sitting alone with a half-burnt cigarette, you realize if Schwartz is the one who destroyed the clue, then you have only one chance to pull back the curtain, set a trap, make him come out into the light himself. Chapter 6. The Trap in the Mirror. You sit in front of the small mirror in your room at the Louvre. The flickering fluorescent light reflects your face, tired, hollow, and shadowed behind your eyes. You have staged the scene. A room rented under a false name, Michel Lemaitre, an old suitcase stuffed with forged papers, newspaper clippings, an empty morphine box, and a rumor, whispered by a friend to the hotel manager, was that this Michel knew too much about Pietr, Schwartz, and the person behind it. You knew someone was coming. You don't know if he's coming for money, to kill you, or to test whether you know too much. But that's what you've been waiting for. Midnight. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Calculated. You turn off the lights, pull out your gun, and hide behind the bathroom door. Your heart beats slow, each beat stretching out like a rope around your neck. Rotary lock. Silent. The door opened. A figure stepped in, tall, thin, in a long coat. You recognized the strong scent of cologne. He wore no gloves, but his movements were mechanical. You signal, the door closes, and you step out of the shadows, the cold barrel of your gun aimed straight at the back of his neck. Stand still, you say. He was not surprised. He did not turn around. He just said, I guess the inspector is not sleeping well. You press the gun closer. Schwartz. He turned around, slowly. No fear. Just a disdainful smile. No, he said. I am the one Schwartz fears. You nod slightly. The world tilts beneath your feet. This man, no name. But the way he stood, the way he didn't bother to hide his face. You knew this was no longer a police chase with criminals. It's a gamble between the one who knows too much and the one who controls what others never get to know. Why did Reinhardt have to die? Because he started talking before he was asked. Is Pietr still alive? Depends on how you define living. It could be in Marseille. It could be in your own head. You're not sure if you're still an investigator or a pawn making his move. He set something down on the table. A thick, old yellow file, stamped Internet, Archives Coloniales. This is what you really need, he said. But I warn you, once you open it, there is no going back. You look at the file. Your hands are shaking a little. The man backed away from the door. Once you know, you will no longer be Maigret. The door closed behind him. You stay with an unfired gun and a record that could change everything. Chapter 7. Unnamed Pages. You set the file on the bed as if it were a bomb that had yet to be defused. The pages are yellowed. The edges are wavy with age and humidity. On the cover, the typewritten text is faint. Dossier confidentiel. Sujet opération Pietr. You unbutton your shirt, take off your shoes, pour yourself a glass of Armagnac from a bottle hidden in your suitcase. Then you sit down, placing your hand on the file, as if you were placing it on the heart of a corpse you are about to dissect. You turn the first page, Nom Pietr Andreevich Golov, alias Pietr the Latvian. Original name, 1920. Activity Latvia, Allemagne, Belgium, France. Signalement, parallel operation for unofficial intelligence networks. Shape-shifting form, no fixed identity. You stop, transformation. You read on, your heart starting to pound. The third page contained a photograph, a man in military uniform, standing with another man, Maigret himself, but thinner, younger. Below the photograph was a handwritten note. Photograph in Riga, 1921. May I identify myself at this time? You vaguely remember a tour of duty with the French army in the Baltics after the war, but you never remember meeting Pietr there. Never remember this photo. You flip faster. Page 7. Medical records. One named Michel P. Treated for post-war trauma. Mention of cognitive disorder. Transient multiple personality. Fragmented memory. Doctor's name signed at bottom. Reinhardt. You suddenly feel cold. You used to believe that Pietr was a doppelganger, or that he was deliberately impersonating someone else. But now, everything began to shake as if in a dream. If Pietr wasn't a person, but an identity, a mask that someone, maybe you, once wore. You stood up and rummaged through your suitcase for old photos. A family photo from Givet, your mother, your father, and a baby. The top half of his face cut off. Why does this picture always bother you? You flip back through the file to the last page. A letter addressed confidential. I am sorry. If you are reading this, it means you have returned. Pietr never disappeared. He only changed form and lived in someone else. The person behind the mirror that you chased was always yourself. Reinhardt, you close the profile. The room seems to shrink around you. It's no longer just a case. It's no longer a chase between inspector and criminal. It's a quest for yourself through distorted memories, displaced identities, and a past no one wants to rediscover. You sit there, silent. Only the sound of the wind howling outside the window remained, like a laugh echoing from the other side of memories. Chapter 8. The shadow behind the mirror. You don't believe in coincidences anymore. Not after everything you've read. The room is a silent morgue, now full of whispers that come from nowhere. You stand up. Take an old business card from your jacket pocket. The handwritten address is faded. Madame Aurore Reinhardt. Résidence Les Glycines, St. Cloud. You look at your watch. It's almost 10 o'clock. But you can't wait until morning. Something inside you is trembling, not with fear, but with the feeling that if you don't find the answer now, it will escape again. Like the name Pietr itself. St. Cloud. Drizzle blurred the taxi window. The old driver looked at you through the rearview mirror. Sir, are you sure you want to go there at this hour? That area is deserted and has a good reputation. You do not answer. The nursing home looms like a ghost under the yellow streetlights. The gate is locked, but you see a figure small, thin, standing by the second-floor window, looking down, not moving, not blinking. You raise the file in your hand. The figure nods. The door opens. You are led into a small, oak-paneled room. She is sitting in an armchair, a wool shawl draped over her knees, her eyes strangely bright under her wrinkled skin. "You're later than I expected," she said, "but not too late." You hand over the file. She doesn't need to look. You saw the photograph. You saw the last letter. And now you want to know who you are, right? You don't answer. You don't have to. "Peter isn't a person," she continued. "He's a model, a role we created, a flexible persona that can be implanted into anyone who needs to be hidden. But why do I miss him?" You ask. "Because I was him." Or was he? Mrs. Reinhardt was silent for a long time. "There was a time, during the war," she said, "when you were assigned to impersonate Pietr to uncover an international spy ring. The problem was it took too long. You were too good. And in the end, you didn't know which was Maigret and which was Pietr. You feel cold. You didn't pretend to be him. You became him." You push back in your chair. The room spins. Part of you wants to run. Another, more dangerous part, wants to smile. "So who killed Reinhardt?" You ask. "Who sent this file?" She closed her eyes. "Maybe a piece of you. Or the next one." Pietr always needs a new body. You stand up, and what should I do? She opened her eyes. You have to choose. Continue being Maigret and bury him again, or let him rise, and this time, never come back. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was as quiet as if someone had just turned off the entire world. You walk out of the house, not sure who you are anymore. Chapter 9. The Man Who Knows It All. You return to Paris before dawn. The rain-soaked streets glow a pale yellow, like a fading memory. You don't go back to the police station. You don't go back to your room. You go to the cafe across from the station, where Maigret used to sit for hours watching Pietr emerge from the trains. Everything seems different, but really, it's just that you're no longer the same person. You hold your unsipated cup of coffee. A man sits down across from you without being invited. He is thin, wears glasses, and wears a shabby black coat. But you know right away he is no ordinary man. "We thought you were dead," he said in smooth, accentless French, or at least inactive. "We, the ones you used to call the network." You do not answer. He placed a gray envelope on the table, unmarked, unsealed. But you knew it was a summons, or a warning. Maybe both. You should open it when you're alone. You look at him again. "And if I don't?" He shrugged. "Then Pietr will do it. One of you must finish this." Inside the envelope was a copy of a new investigation report from the Interpol, a murder in Geneva. A bank manager was shot twice in the head. There was no sign of a break-in, no robbery, and no camera footage of the perpetrator. But what gives you goosebumps is the last page, an image of an internal Swiss police report, where there is a handwritten note in purple ink. He knew the password before the system changed. He knows the names of people who have never shown their faces. He was us. You know the style. You've written it before. Were you him, or were you the one chasing him? You wonder if Pietr had returned. Would he be killing with the logic of an investigator? A man who once wore the mask of righteousness. A man who understood the system too well to destroy it without leaving a trace. You close your eyes. There are two paths forward. Become Maigret again, the crime solver, or let Pietr rise. He makes everything fall apart from within. You open your eyes. In the cafe bathroom mirror, your face is reflected, normal. But in your eyes, something changes. As if you are looking at yourself from the other side of the glass. You tap the mirror, doesn't break, but it's no longer silent. Chapter 10. Face hidden in the rain. Geneva, a city that seems so clean and safe that it's almost suspicious. Lakes reflecting the lights of billionaires' villas. Bank buildings rising into the clouds like invisible ivory towers. And in the middle of it all, an old hotel room overlooking the Rhone, where you sit with your shirt sleeves wet from the rain and a report marked with a pen as red as dried blood. The man was found dead in a locked apartment. No signs of a struggle. No recorded audio. No camera footage of the killer. The victim's name, Paul Bellinger, head of a secret money operation who had worked with many intelligence networks, including yours. You know the name, not just from the file. You met Paul once in a bar in Zurich when you still called yourself Captain René Dumas. He was the man who held the codes for transferring money from Europe to the Middle East. If he was dead, it meant someone was cleaning up the last links. You arrive at the scene, cold, silent. The apartment is sealed, but you have a way in, a way only those who have been in the system know. The door opens without violence. Inside, everything is incredibly clean. A half-full cup of coffee. A cigarette not yet burned out. The morning paper folded in half. It's as if Paul just got up to go to the toilet and disappeared from the world. You check the kitchen, normal. The bathroom. The mirror is still fogged up. But that's what makes you stop. Who was the last person to use it? You write on the mirror with a damp finger. Pietr, no response. Just the writing fading over time, like your own traces in this life. There is a knock on the door. 3 knocks. Then a pause, then 2 quick knocks. You don't think the same code? You open the door. A woman walked in. Black hair, long raincoat. Eyes that could read your mind. "We need to talk," she said, about someone who was thought to be dead in Paris. Someone who is killing again. Following the same pattern you used to build. "Pietr, you ask?" She nodded. "No, not just Pietr," she whispered, "but the second version of you, the one who didn't choose to be a detective." She puts a file on the table. You open it. The photo, a man standing on a hotel balcony in Venice. The face is unclear, but the shadows are unmistakable. The walk is yours. The pose is yours. But it's not you, at least not the one standing here. "We call him Maigret the Ghost," she said, "and he's recreating all the old cases, but this time, he's the killer." You look out the window. It's starting to rain heavily. Part of you wants to get to the bottom of the case. Another part wants to cover your tracks, like he's doing. You asked, are we investigating a murderer? Or are we searching for ourselves? She did not answer. Chapter 11. Venice, Mask and Shadow. You arrive in Venice under a false name and with a fake diplomatic passport given to you by the girl, who has yet to give you her name. You've been to darker places in the past, but none have made you feel like you're back on an old stage, where all the props are in place, but the script has been rewritten by someone else. Venice, at night, is a city of echoes. The sound of water lapping against wooden pillars, the distant stroke of gondola oars, and in your mind, the whispers of unsolved crimes. And his voice, Peter, or is someone else wearing your face? Hotel Ca d'Oro, third floor room, balcony overlooking the Cannaregio Canal. You check the cameras. No cameras. But you use the microwave detector anyway. Someone has been here, watching, recording. Not the housekeeping. Not a tourist. The smell of old gunpowder. The faint chlorine in the air. And a notebook left on the desk. Black leather cover. No name. No logo. But the first line inside makes you freeze. When Maigret turned down the first case, someone else took it. Below were the names Simeon, Bellinger, Leclerc, Lucille, all the people you had been involved with, or investigated, or covered up. And all of them were now dead, or missing. A hand-drawn diagram. 8 markers, each a city, a case, an event from the past. The final marker is Geneva, the last night. The witness will no longer be a witness. A knock on the door makes you spin. Gun drawn in a split second. But it's not the assassin. It's her. Hair wet. Eyes cold. In her hand is a harlequin mask, half laughing, half crying. Do you know this person? She asked. You recognize the object. It's a mask you saw in a souvenir photo from your time in counterintelligence. A game of dress-up, but not a game anymore. This masked person, she continued, left behind an encrypted weather report. Inside were coordinates to an old chapel on the island of San Michele. And a message. She opened her phone and showed you the message. If Maigret doesn't want to solve the case, then let him become part of them. You have no choice. No more observers. No more history writers. You must step into your own story, where every step can be the end, or the beginning of a whole new chapter. Chapter 12. Island of the Dead. The Last Hymn. San Michele, Venice's cemetery island, where the dead rest between two worlds, land and water, past and present. Stepping onto the gray stone pier, you feel each quiet sound echoing like a call from the earth or from your own memory. The girl walks behind, still holding the harlequin mask in her hand. You don't know what role she plays in this play. An ally, a deceiver, or a protagonist you never understood. Neither of you say anything. Here, words can awaken what should be dormant. The rusted iron gate opened. The cobblestone path led to the old chapel. Santa Lucia, Abbandonata, abandoned since a mysterious fire in 1938. On the door, there was a symbol you recognized immediately, 2 interlocking circles. An eye with a drop of blood. The symbol had been used by a group of wartime codebreakers, a group you thought had been wiped out. But no, someone had continued, or had revived it. The girl handed you the decoder. The signal is coming from the basement under the chapel. You go ahead. You don't ask how she knows. Here, every answer is a trap. You push open the door. The hinges make a snapping sound. Inside is darkness, dust, and the smell of ashes. And in the center of the room, an old transmitter, the kind you'd only see in a spy museum. The screen lights up as you approach. Identification form MG. Authentication level 1. Access. File replay. The last witness. A voice spoke. Not yours, but close. If you hear this, it means they have begun the final stages. I don't know who you are, a remnant or a finder, but know that it all began in Riga and ended with me. Pietr was never a person. Pietr was an idea, a name to blame or to erase. You stand still. The file ends. Then the system automatically prints a single line on the paper tape. Return to the beginning, or become the end. The girl disappeared. You rush out of the chapel, but the island is shrouded in thick fog. No boats, no people. Just you and the harlequin mask hanging from the cemetery gate, blood still dripping from the corners of its eyes. Someone or something is pulling you back to where it all began. Chapter 13. Riga. The final identification card. You return to Riga not as a tourist or a detective. You return as a ghost, a living witness carrying memories that are unclear whether real or fabricated. The winter sun has never shone warmly here, and you wonder how many people have died to keep the name Pietr silent. The central station is as it always was, bleak, austere. You step off the night train, carrying nothing but a crumpled piece of paper bearing the words from San Michele. Back to the beginning, or become the end. A man in a brown leather coat greets you with the same look you saw in the mirror. Skeptical, tired, but alive. You don't need to ask his name, because you recognize him as you, or an earlier version of you, a bionic clone, an implanted spy. You are the last survivor, the man said, or the last forgiven. Remember, you nod, but that's a lie. The two of them went to the suburban area where the underground headquarters of Interpol Riga used to be, now a shopping mall. Down in the basement, behind a cement wall, was a room with no door, only a biosensor that recognized voices. You read the code from the paper tape in Venice again. Last witness, level 1 access. The door opened. Not with a sound of an engine, but with acknowledgement. Inside is a hologram projector. Faces appear. None of them you really recognize, but they are all Pietr from time to time. A Russian aristocrat, a reactionary Estonian monk, a German engineer of Latvian origin murdered in a labor camp, a French woman with an uncanny resemblance to you. They all have one face, the face you put on from the first chapter. You don't know who is real. The man with you spoke up. Pietr is not a person. Pietr is an identifier used to neutralize crimes. Whenever the authorities want to erase an event, they attribute it to Pietr, and so everything goes dark. No records, no subjects, no explanations, and you collapse. The question is no longer who is Pietr, but were you Pietr? You look at the control panel. A single button. Overwrite data. Press it, said the man, or it all repeats. You look at him, or look at yourself. You raise your hand, stopping it in midair. There is no right choice. Only choices that will leave a mark on your record or in your memory. Chapter 14. The version no one believes. The press of your finger makes no sound. It doesn't shake the ground. It doesn't set alarm bells ringing. But what you did or didn't do rewrote history beyond all verification. When you open your eyes, you find yourself in a small, clean, anonymous apartment. No clear memory of how you got there. A strange face in the mirror, but not completely unfamiliar. Your eyes are deeper. The smile is absent. And in your pocket, a new identification card. Your name is Mark Danziger. Nationality unknown. Residence temporary. You turn on the TV. The news reports an assassination in Brussels. The victim is a Latvian diplomat. The suspect, an unidentified man of ambiguous nationality, whose features may be Baltic, Eastern European, French, or all three. The description is chillingly similar to yours. You try calling a number you don't remember knowing. A female voice answers cold, smooth, as if trained. You're still alive. I think so, and still don't remember. Maybe I remember, but I don't trust that memory anymore. Her voice softened. They used Pietr as a template. Memories, sins, names, behaviors. They could be programmed. What they couldn't program was doubt. You wander through the city with your new badge and gestures that don't belong to you. People pass you by as if you don't exist. That's what a high-level ID badge is for, to stay in plain sight. An encrypted message appears in the phone notes app. The last one is not the killer, but the one who holds the question. You stand frozen in the crowd. Across the street is a woman with a shadowy face. One of the images you saw in the underground room in Riga. She turns around, looking at you without surprise. You follow her. No greeting, no question, no introduction. Just a small piece of paper she placed in your hand. The next one is called Pietr, sitting in a cafe in Belgrade. If he doesn't come, he will die. If he comes, another version of him will disappear. You look up. She's gone. In your pocket, a plane ticket to Serbia. Who booked it? In your heart, the fear is not of being killed, but of becoming a killer without ever knowing why. Chapter 15. Letter to my future self. It rains in Belgrade when you land, not a downpour, a cold drizzle that muffles all sound. This city is accustomed to darkness, to nameless faces and silent transactions. You enter the cafe the note mentioned. It is a modest, deserted place, with dark wood paneling and faint jazz music. The man sitting in the far corner looks up as you enter. No introduction needed. He has the same eyes as you, the same heartbeat, the same memories. Hello, you say? Still alive, he replies. I guess. Neither of us is sure about that. Between the two coffee cups was a thick envelope. He pushed it towards you. This was sent to me from a man named Danziger. He left a message, don't let them use the sample again. You open the envelope. Inside are research files, brain scans, genome maps, behavioral analysis reports, all marked Pietr. A project, a product, not a person. He or you laughs. I guess we're not copies, but drafts. You asked if they created us. Then who is the original? There may be no original, he replied. There is only a beginning that no one remembers. On the table, the phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. There are people who still believe your name is Pietr, and they want to kill you, all of you. You both look at each other. The question is no longer who will live, but who needs to live for the story to continue. You gestured for him to go first. He stood slowly, his eyes never leaving yours. The glass reflected the two of you, a rift between two worlds that could never be mended. As he steps out, you slowly pull the gun from under the table. You don't know which of the two is real, but you know for sure only one of them must survive if this nightmare is to end. Chapter 16. Everyone has a different name. No gunshots were heard. You keep your finger on the trigger. Take a deep breath. In that brief moment between action and hesitation, you realize something more terrifying than death not knowing who you are. Not knowing if the person standing before you is a clone, or if you yourself are a copy of another clone. The cafe door closes behind him. The rain continues to fall, soaking the street and washing away any traces. You tuck the gun into your jacket and step outside into the gray water. You follow the address on the file, an abandoned laboratory on the edge of town, hidden in a war-torn industrial area. The smell of antiseptic, mold, and disassembled machinery permeates your every step. On the walls were pictures, faces like you in different stages, younger, thinner, cooler, all numbered. What number are you? In the center of the room was a metal chair used for setting up. As the note read, underneath the dust, a notebook was intact signed by G. Danziger. Excerpt from note. The 12th self showed rebellious tendencies, beginning to doubt the authenticity of the memory implantation process. The 7th self lost control of its emotions after meeting its double self. No individual can maintain stability if exposed to a copy of itself. You read the words over and over again, feeling your own mind crack with each line. Was everything the case? The letter, the man in the cafe, being set up just to test you. An old recording plays when you open the steel cabinet. If Pietr starts asking questions, erase all the sequences, reset from the original memory. Don't let him remember. You clench your fists, blood draining from your joints. You don't want to forget. Suddenly, a flashlight beam swept across the hallway. Someone is coming. It could be another version. It could be Danziger. It could be you. Some version you lost along the way. You run, this time not for escape, but for search for evidence, for roots, for something real. Chapter 17. No One. No One's Memoirs. The night train rolled out of Gare du Nord at 03:15 a.m. The sound of iron wheels grinding against the rails, as if every memory was being eroded away bit by bit. You sit in the last car, in darkness, interrupted by small lights from the wayside stations. Across the row of seats is an elderly woman in round-rimmed glasses, clutching a worn leather bag. She looks at you, not the look of a random passenger, but the look of someone who has been waiting for you all your life. You were about to turn away when she said, her voice low and unwavering, Pietr number 13 never got past the assimilation stage, but I think you can. You stop breathing. Who are you? My name doesn't matter, but I was the keeper of memories, the shaper, the initiator. You clench your fist. If you were someone who worked with Danziger, you would know I wasn't real. The woman shook her head. No. You are real. Just not real in the way humans define it. You are the only being who has learned to doubt himself, and that is what makes you human. She opened the leather bag. Inside was a black-covered diary with faintly printed words. Original document, Pietr A. 12, 5th cycle. You turn the first pages. Memories you don't remember living a boy sent to a training camp. Forced to learn 10 languages in 6 months. Torn from every image of his mother. Nightmares. And the first time he puts his hand on a gun, you shiver. Not because you're scared, but because it's too real. Why are you giving me this? Because you need to know you are not a failed copy. You are the final design. The version that even Danziger feared. You are the only one with memories that cannot be erased. You look out the window. The lights of the German border begin to appear. And then what? The woman laughed, as if it was a question she had waited decades to hear. Then you decide who you will become. The train slowed down. You tuck the diary into your jacket. There's still the gun in the pocket. And a black and white photo of someone you've never met, but feel like you once loved deeply. Chapter 18. No one returns in whole. You get off the train in Bremen. No one to meet you. No code word. No confirmation that you are expected. But from the look in the old cab driver's eyes, you know the news has come before you. The old black Mercedes drives through the foggy streets, bringing you to an abandoned industrial area. The red brick building is peeling paint. No sign. A perfect place for memories to die. Inside were 3 people. A young man with messy blonde hair and a scarred face. An African woman in black leather. A gun strapped to her hip, as if she didn't trust the language. And a man sitting still in the darkness, only his eyes glowing like a cat's. You say I came to verify, not to apply for membership. The woman curled her lips. Anyone who still uses the word verify still believes in the truth. The blond man chuckled dryly. Anyone who comes from Danziger's network carries a bomb. It's just a matter of whether it's a real bomb or a memory bomb. You put the diary on the table. The man in the shadows reached out, wearing a black leather glove. Give me 5 minutes. You nod. All fell silent. The sound of pages turning was like the cutting of a knife. After 3 minutes, the other stopped, looked up. Pietr A12 is not an identity. It is a divergence program, implanted in the entities to make them suspicious of each other. But you, he stood up and stepped into the light. You are the convergence point. You ask, so what is your network? We are the remnants, the ones designed to die after the first mission. But we live and remember, and now want to turn the structure around. The woman interrupted. The question is, are you here to help us or to erase our memories again? You look at each one. Look at your own reflection in the frosted glass. Then put the gun on the table, the stock facing them. If I betray, shoot me. And if I am, let me tell you what I remember, and what I am not sure, whose memories it is. The 3 people looked at each other. After a moment, the man nodded. We are listening. Stateless entity. Begin? Chapter 19. Identity is a disease. You begin to speak, slowly, as if each word were a piece of broken glass extracted from your mind. My name used to be Simon Arday, but no one had called me that since I arrived in Kharkov in the winter of 1984. There, I had 3 passports, 2 medical records, and a fake mother who had died of heart disease on UN paperwork. The African woman, her name was Zoma. You'd heard from the whisper nodded, but said nothing. The blond man smiled. tapping his finger lightly on the camera lens of his watch. "We don't need biographies," he said. "We need mistakes." You are silent for a second. "Here's the mistake: I left one alive. Pietr, or something of that name. I believed him to be a faulty clone, a discarded pawn. But I was wrong. He wasn't faulty. He was the original, built to betray the entire network." The man in the dark tilted his head slightly. "And now, what do you believe you are?" "I am the last one who is not corrected. I remember everything. And because of that, I am dangerous." You pull out a map, folded in a half-burned cigarette pack. Marked in red ink are Zagreb, Vilnius, Casablanca, and Bremen, where you are sitting. Each point is a place where there used to be a duplicate self. People who live two lives, but don't remember which one is real. I used to think they were victims. Now I know. They are decoys. Every time I approach a self, the data in me is automatically overwritten. I don't just remember, I become them. Zoma said, his voice cold. "You are a self-taught weapon." The blonde whispered, shuddering slightly. "A mobile library, out of control." You nod, but this time, I'm taking control, and I'm starting by sharing everything I remember before it gets overwritten. You take out a hard drive, rusty, old, and plug it into a small projector. Faces appeared on the wall. The man in the shadows backed away slightly. One of them was him, but younger, without the scar. "I won't be the first to be used, but I want to be the last to survive." The room fell silent until Zoma said, "If you really remember everything, then find out who created Pietr and why he let you live." You nod. The light flickered. The door opened. A metal gate leads down to the basement, unmarked. Underneath is the newest version. It has not awakened, and it has your face. You look down the dark stairs, as if looking back at yourself in a broken dream. You step down. Chapter 20. Final version. There are no lights on the stairs, only the light from the clock reflecting off the stone walls. Each step is a slow, heavy heartbeat. You have no gun, no knife, only memory and doubt. At the bottom of the stairs is a steel door. No handle, no mechanical lock. But you know how to open it. The biometric code. The palm of your left hand had belonged to the station's chief engineer, Sophia, who had designed the system. You press your hand against it, feeling the cold electricity run up your arm. The door opens with a sigh like that of a sleeping animal. The room inside is small, hexagonal, and the walls are lined with unlit black screens. In the center of the room is a tank like a cocoon or a coffin. And inside it, floating in an amber liquid, is you. Not the current you, but the later version. Not yet awake, but complete, same face. But no wrinkles under the eyes, no scars from the explosion in Budapest. You look at yourself. It breathes, the machinery that keeps biology going. A pure being, without doubt, without sin, a new beginning. On the walls, screens flashed in unison. Faces of the dead, old selves, some you had killed, some you had been, all speaking at once. A chorus of static. There is no final self. There are only loops. You step back, your heart rate increases. Another sound rings. The data transfer system is activating. Information is being backed up from you to it. In a matter of minutes, every memory you carry, every word, every emotion, every betrayal will be transferred to that motionless body. And then you will be overwritten. You have a choice. Unplug it. Stop it from living. Kill the new version. Let the process complete. Then withdraw. Disappear. Alter the data stream. Send false memories. Create a different identity. A self that was never you. An illusion. A prey. You look at your hand. Too much blood to be a hero. Too much life to be a death row inmate. And time is running out. You go to the control panel. Hold out your hand. Tap on the third option. Encode false memories. Piece together bits and pieces of what you used to be and what you want to forget. Create a self that isn't you, but similar enough to fool anyone who's hunting you. Overwrite process complete. You look at the new version with your eyes open. It doesn't recognize you. You turn away. Step into the back hallway. The door opens only once. Behind you, the world goes on, with someone who wears your face, and a memory that belongs to no one. You disappear again, and this time it might be true.